I realized I had ended up in a place that was completely out of place for me. I truly felt that way deep down. I wanted to leave, but I had to consider my cousin Emily's feelings. Realizing it wouldn't be right to leave, I quietly drank my drink. Surrounded by idols, female celebrities, elite businessmen from international corporations, and aspiring doctors. Their professions were high caliber, and their looks were impressively attractive. I just wished this mixer would end soon. That was all that was on my mind. I'm Michael. I'm a 28-year-old ordinary guy. Well, my job might be a bit unusual. I'm a writer, a profession somewhat familiar, yet unfamiliar, in everyday life. But I'm not one of those best-selling authors whose books instantly become bestsellers or get adapted into dramas or movies. Of course, I aspire to have many people read my works. It would truly make me happy if my stories caught someone's eye and moved their heart. I debuted as a writer 4 years ago. My second novel, fortunately, won a Newcomer's Prize in a famous literary award. It got a lot of media attention and sold incredibly well. Thankfully, that novel was adapted into a drama. With decent viewership ratings, I hope to join the ranks of successful authors with my third novel. However, the third book only created a bit of buzz and didn't sell well. The hastily written fourth book didn't do any better. I was slowly becoming a one-hit wonder as a writer. I thought about giving up writing altogether, but I just couldn't. I yearned for someone to read the stories I created. This desire was something I couldn't suppress. Yet, the reality is that I need to work to survive. So, I was living modestly, working as a traffic controller, a job I had also done as a part-time gig during high school and college. I would return home from my traffic control shifts, eat meals from the convenience store, and write my novels. That was my daily routine. One day, after finishing my shift as a traffic controller, I was on my way home. My cell phone, which had been silent for a while, rang, and I was slightly surprised to see the caller ID, but I answered the call. "Hey, Michael, long time no see. How are you, still alive?" The voice on the other end of the phone was as cheerful as ever. The caller was Emily, a 23-year-old pop idol. Why was a lackluster writer like me talking on the phone with a pop idol and even being called by my first name? Because Emily is my cousin. "Yeah, I'm good. You're doing great too. I heard your new song." "Really? Thank you. I'm so happy. The first week sales were pretty good." Emily sounded genuinely delighted. Her happiness made me feel good too. Emily had always been cute and often talked about wanting to be a pop idol. She made her dream come true, and I admire and am proud of her for that. "That's great, Emily. You're really putting in the effort. But why did you call? It's been a while, hasn't it? Is something wrong?" When I asked, Emily suddenly spoke in a serious tone. "Michael, do you have time right now? Even if you don't, come. I need you at the station in 30 minutes. Please, I'll be in trouble if you don't come," she said quickly, and before I could ask anything, the call was abruptly ended. Emily has always been like this, a whirlwind of action, often letting others on. Yet, I couldn't dislike her for it. I envied her drive, something I lacked. Sighing, I decided to head to the station she mentioned. Traveling by subway, I arrived at the station Emily had specified about 20 minutes after the call. Relieved that I made it in time, I was suddenly tapped on the shoulder from behind. "You made it, Michael. Way to go. I'm so relieved." Turning around, I was greeted by Emily's beaming smile. Being a pop idol, she wore a cap and had her mask pulled down, smiling brightly. "Hey, put your mask on. You never know who might see you." Seeing me panic, Emily burst into laughter. "It's dark, nobody can see faces. You worry too much, Michael, but thanks for coming." "So, what's going on? Did something happen? When I asked, Emily cheerfully explained why she had summoned me. "Oh, well, it's an invitation to a mixer or a party." "What? Are you serious?" I blurted out in surprise, unfamiliar with such terms, and Emily scolded me. "Seriously, you're too loud. Keep it down. What if someone recognizes us?" Emily chided me. "Sorry, but look at what I'm wearing. Can I even enter a fancy place dressed like this?" I voiced my biggest concern. "I'm currently wearing a tank top." After finishing my job directing traffic, I showered back at the office, so I'm pretty sure I don't smell bad, and the tank top is brand new. Additionally, I've been saving money by not getting haircuts, so now I have a buzz cut. My footwear, sandals, are definitely not the type of attire suitable for a fancy restaurant. Unfazed by my worries, Emily flashed an okay sign with her fingers, smiling. "The place isn't that formal. Look at me, I'm just wearing a t-shirt and jeans." "Wait, just hold on." Comparing a current pop idol to a struggling 28-year-old part-timer like me isn't fair. I thought it would be best to leave the place, but Emily, anticipating this, firmly grabbed my arm, preventing me from going. "I really should go back," I insisted. "But you'll definitely regret it if you do. It's better if you stay," Emily replied with determination. As we were debating whether to stay or leave, Emily was approached by someone. "Emily, sorry I'm late." As we both turned around at the sound of the voice, a man stood there, exuding confidence. His suit appeared expensive, impeccably tailored without a single wrinkle, and his leather shoes were polished to a shine. "Odd Brad, good to see you. I wasn't waiting long." Emily's voice changed, becoming higher-pitched. Emily's quick transformation made me realize how scary women can be. And who is this gentleman?" "He's an acquaintance of mine," she replied quickly. Naturally, the fact that Emily and I are cousins is a secret. There are unscrupulous media outlets that dig out childhood stories of celebrities like Emily, fabricating tales and creating false narratives. Relatives of celebrities are often easy targets. "So nice to meet you. Have we met before?" I apologized, genuinely not remembering him. While I was trying to figure out what to say, the man, Brad, seemed to be recalling something, then suddenly exclaimed, "Could it be Michael? Is that you, Michael?" Yes, that's me, but sorry, When the guy correctly guessed my name, I was definitely flustered. Not remembering him seemed way too rude on my part. "It's me, Brad. We were in college together, remember? Different faculties, but you were in the literature department, right?" It all came back to me. Brad had indeed been my classmate in college. We'd occasionally spoken after I'd shared a textbook with him in class. "Oh, now that you mention it, sorry, I didn't recognize you right away." Brad laughed at my words. "No problem. Even I'm amazed at my own memory, but seriously, what's with that outfit? You look like a broke guy." His laughter drew curious looks from passers-by. Well, he was right about my outfit being uncool. Watching Brad laugh nonstop, I remembered he was always like this in college. Brad was a smart guy but had a habit of looking down on others. Smart and good-looking. He also had a great sense of style, so he was probably popular with others. However, I remember seeing him alone sometimes, so maybe he wasn't well-liked even back then. I was called here suddenly, so I wasn't sure about the dress code. I glanced at Emily. "Everything's fine, really. You don't look bad or smell bad, and it's okay to be casual in this place." Encouragingly, Emily led the way into the restaurant she had presumably booked. "Hey, wait up, Emily. I'm coming too." Brad, seemingly smitten with Emily, eagerly followed her. Sighing, I also entered the restaurant. Gradually, more people joined, and the private room filled up, ending with 3 men and 2 women. Brad introduced himself as working for a foreign financial firm, and the other man mentioned he was a medical trainee. The other woman, apparently a friend of Emily's from the entertainment industry, was a charming girl, though not yet active in her talent career. I've been mostly living off part-time jobs lately. I'm not an elite or a doctor, nor do I have great looks, but I hope we can all have a good time. Nice to meet you. Everyone, except Brad, seemed to receive my introduction warmly, looking at me kindly. But Brad, seemingly displeased with the atmosphere, continued to make snide remarks about my boring life and how working part-time at my age was pitiful. I decided to drink quietly, letting his sarcastic jabs slide off me. About an hour later, a knock on the door interrupted us, and a woman wearing a mask and cap entered the room. Seeing her, Emily let out a relieved sigh. "I was worried you wouldn't make it. Sorry to keep you waiting. The shoot took longer than expected. I was really rushing here." I was surprised when she took off her mask and cap, because there stood Sarah, a new actress who was currently the talk of the town. Sarah had won a grand prize on a famous audition show and entered the entertainment world, sweeping numerous newcomer awards for her acting talent. She was becoming the undisputed queen of commercials, appearing on TV almost daily. While I was certainly surprised and a bit starstruck, having Emily as a pop idol cousin helped me regain my composure quickly. But there was one person who couldn't calm down. "Well, Sarah, I'm so glad I came today. Sit here, next to me." Brad's loud excitement earned him a caution from Emily. "Hey, Brad, keep it down, please. We can manage, but you'll trouble Sarah. I know, but I'm just so excited. Hey, Sarah, come sit here." Still not over his excitement, Brad tried to pull Sarah forcefully next to him. As she let out a small yelp, Emily and her friend tried to intervene. Feeling I couldn't ignore this, I grabbed Brad's wrist. "Hey, stop it, Brad. Calm down. First of all, it's not right to touch a woman without permission, no matter who she is." I squeezed his wrist, causing him to frown. I'm pretty slender for a guy, so people often think I'm not very strong. But in traffic control, I have to set up various items, which means carrying and moving heavy loads. It's more physically demanding than it appears, so I've naturally developed some muscle strength. Additionally, as a traffic controller, I've had drivers irritated with the traffic control lash out at me with complaints, and sometimes they even get out of their cars to confront me directly. I've learned techniques and training to de-escalate situations and avoid prolonging conflicts. I never thought I'd use these skills outside of traffic control. But you never know what might come in handy in life. It must have been frustrating for Brad to be stopped by me, someone who was just quietly drinking until that moment. He let go of Sarah's hand, but his face turned bright red as he confronted me. "What? Who do you think you are? Trying to act cool? Just a traffic control part-timer. Do you know how much I make at a foreign financial firm? It's probably more than you make in years." I internally groaned at the hassle. Using such trivial matters to assert dominance seemed so petty. Just as I was thinking of taking Brad outside, Sarah spoke up. "I don't even know your name yet, but I really dislike people like you. How can you say such things to someone? There's something truly intimidating about a beautiful woman's stern face." I witnessed it firsthand. Faced with Sarah's intensity, Brad stumbled over his words in a flustered attempt at an explanation. "Yay, but listen, I worked hard, studied, and got a job at a good company. And this guy here, he studied literature or something in college, which I don't even know if it's useful, paying high tuition for that." Brad continued his heated rant. "It's true, literature studies are often questioned like, what do you do with that? Or what will you become in the future? I used to think about it as if it was someone else's problem." But Brad's diatribe was far from over. He ends up as a traffic controller. That's messed up. That's why I say it's about the lack of effort, the inability to make future-oriented choices, this guy's naive thinking, and that's when it happened. Sarah interrupted the flow of conversation with something unexpected. "I can't believe it. Do you not know who he is? Such a famous writer and all." Brad stood there with his mouth open, completely baffled. And embarrassingly, I must have had the same expression for a moment. Emily burst out laughing at that. Brad seemed to reboot at the sound of her laugh. "What, Sarah, what are you saying? This guy's a writer, and famous. I have no clue about him. It's just your ignorance." Sarah retorted with a smile, though her eyes weren't smiling at all. Her smile for me, however, was genuinely happy, and it made my heart race. "Actually, I'm a huge fan of your work. I particularly love his debut story." Sarah then passionately discussed my work, analyzing the psychological portrayal and character development, and how wonderfully the plot threads were tied together. She talked about each of his books, from my debut to the second and third, showing a deep understanding of them. I was absolutely thrilled, feeling a warmth spread throughout my body. It was so gratifying to know that the stories I had written had resonated so deeply with someone. I shared with Sarah the backstory of how I felt while writing that particular scene, what my intentions were, and why I had the characters say certain lines, details I had only ever shared with my editor before. Sarah and I became so engrossed in discussing the novel that we completely lost track of time and place, carried away by our conversation. It was Emily who had to interrupt us. "Okay, you two, stop. Nobody else can follow along anymore." We both looked around, embarrassed, and laughed. Emily, knowing my profession, was laughing joyously, and the other members, who had received me warmly, were watching us with smiles. Suddenly, both Sarah and I felt embarrassed and shared a laugh as our eyes met. "Come on, what's the big deal about being a writer? You're not even selling well right now, right? So, it's not that impressive." In response to Brad's words, Sarah countered, "You have no idea how hard it is to create stories that move people's hearts. Such a lack of sensitivity, no matter how good your job is. I despise people who say such things." Brad, hoping for some support, turned to Emily, looking desperate. "What, despise? You can't be serious, Emily. You don't think that, right? Compared to an unsuccessful writer like me working at an international finance company, I must be more impressive, right?" Brad, with a look of desperation on his face, sought agreement from the group. "I certainly respect writers. Besides, I really dislike people who mock others' appearances like Brad does. I would never choose someone like him." Brad's face turned pale at her words. The other guests, including the aspiring doctor and the entertainer, nodded in agreement. Realizing he had no allies or support in the room, Brad pulled out his wallet and slammed 2 $100 bills on the table. "I'll never come back to a place like this again," he exclaimed before storming out. "Don't worry, you won't be invited to these gatherings anymore. Word spreads fast that you have a bad personality, Brad." Brad left the private room in a flurry, uttering incoherent sounds. In his absence, a sense of relief filled the air, and we decided to enjoy our meal anew, now as a group of 5. The atmosphere had transformed completely, becoming cheerful and enjoyable. I sincerely felt glad that I came to this place today. At that moment, a question suddenly popped into my mind. "Hey, Emily, was the reason you invited me here today because you wanted me to meet Sarah?" As I reminisced about the sudden invitation and how I was persuaded not to leave, I asked her this question. "Yes, that's right. I found out that Sarah is a huge fan of your novels. I thought it would be nice to introduce you to," Emily replied. Emily revealed that it was indeed a coincidence that she found out Sarah was a huge fan of my novels. Apparently, Sarah once had a mishap in a TV station corridor, bumping into someone and spilling her bag's contents all over the place. Emily had rushed over to help pick up Sarah's scattered items and found my novel among them. The novel was obviously well read, and Emily handed it over and asked, "Do you like this book? Oh, you found it. Thank goodness, I was so worried." When Emily received the novel from Sarah, she held it to her chest with great care, as if it were precious. This made Emily think that Sarah might be a huge fan. Upon asking, it turned out that indeed she was a big fan of mine. Emily revealed that she was a relative of mine and had arranged today's gathering for this reason. I had no idea. Thank you. I'm so happy to know that someone cherishes what I've poured my heart and soul into creating. I truly am a fan of your work, Michael. Your stories have inspired me and helped me persevere through various challenges. Sarah spoke passionately again, reaffirming my resolve to keep writing, regardless of my popularity. After leaving the restaurant and as we were parting ways, I desperately wanted Sarah's contact information. I hesitated, though. I was nearly a nobody, and she was a rising star. It was a dilemma like no other I had faced in my life. Emily, sensing my hesitation, encouraged me. Go for it. Ask her. She'll definitely give you her contact details. Buoyed by Emily's confidence, I approached Sarah. If it's okay with you, could I have your contact details? I felt like I had just leaped off a cliff, a moment of taking a big risk. It felt like I was mustering all the courage I hadn't used in a long time. As I nervously awaited her response. Is that okay? I was actually hoping to ask you first. It feels like a dream. I'm so happy, thank you. When I looked up at Sarah's response, she looked genuinely pleased, making me feel happy as well. Following that, we began exchanging messages. I had a flexible schedule, but she was busy. Initially, I was really unsure about how often to send messages. I didn't want to make her feel compelled to reply amidst her busy schedule. With that in mind, I didn't message her too frequently. However, she eventually reached out to me. Getting a message from you, Michael, really helps me get through the day. I might not be able to reply immediately, but I'll definitely get back to you, she wrote. Reading that, I was genuinely happy. From then on, we got to know each other at our own pace, slowly growing closer. We often went out to eat, not just the two of us, but with Emily and other members of the group, and we had a great time. However, one day, I couldn't reach Sarah for about 3 days. She usually informed me in advance if she was going to be unavailable for a long time due to shooting or something similar. On the first and second days, I thought she must be too busy or tired to contact me, but by the third day, I couldn't stand it anymore and tried calling her, but couldn't get through. Worried that something might have happened, I called Emily. Hello, I kinda thought you'd be calling soon. Emily's voice sounded more like forced cheerfulness and her usual brightness. She seemed to be trying hard to act normal. Is something up with Sarah? Emily, if you know something, could you please tell me? I pleaded desperately. When I pressed further, Emily finally opened up. The news was so shocking that I stood there, phone to my ear, unable to move. I don't quite remember what else was said after that. But after hanging up, I had made up my mind about something. Is it okay if I come in? It's me, Michael. I knocked on the door of the hospital room, and after hearing a faint response from her, I took a deep breath and opened the door. I thought you might come. I got an apology email from Emily. Sarah was lying on a large hospital bed, smiling gently. She was sitting up with an 4 drip attached. Sorry, I'm not wearing makeup. I wanted to look nice when meeting Michael. After all, I am an actress. Her smiling face looked a bit thinner than before, and her face was pale. I walked up to the bed, maintaining my composure, and after asking for permission, sat down on the chair beside the bed. Sarah, you always look great, but you're beautiful even without makeup, I said sincerely, and it seemed my words reached her. She looked a bit shy. It's been tough, hasn't it? I haven't heard the details, but I know about your condition, I said. Sarah nodded slightly and looked down. Just when things were starting to go well, and it felt like it was just the beginning. Why did this have to happen? I'm so frustrated. I never thought I'd have breast cancer, she shared. Yeah, I understand. It's especially hard because it's right at the moment when things were taking off for you, I responded empathetically. Sarah must be struggling to come to terms with her sudden illness. A young woman like her, diagnosed with breast cancer, it's hard to comprehend. Nobody knows when illness might strike, but for her to face this challenge at such a crucial point in her life seems like an incredibly harsh trial. What kind of test is this, I wonder? As a writer, I feel pathetic for not being able to find the right words to comfort her, I admitted. People always struggle with what to say to someone who's ill, Sarah replied gently, but having been through it, I realize how much it means to have someone worry and stand by you. It was a humbling moment, being consoled by someone younger. She hesitated before continuing. I know it depends on how I'm feeling, but, saying that, Sarah paused mid-sentence. It seemed like she was struggling to find the right words, as if she was hesitant. What's up? If there's anything I can do, just tell me, I offered earnestly. I want to support her. Would you mind visiting me like this when you have time? She asked. Hearing Sarah's wish, in a way, I felt relieved. Because, after all, it was what I had hoped for too. Of course, I was planning to do that from the start. You beat me to saying it. After sharing a brief laugh, I pulled an envelope out of my bag. Sarah, this is for you. Could you open it? Can I? She opened the envelope honestly and took out its contents. Seeing what was inside, she looked surprised. This is the new novel I'm working on. It's about romance and adulthood, with all its complexities and heartaches. This story follows a protagonist who, despite many trials, finds a wonderful love. As I briefly described it, a flush of excitement colored her pale face. Your new work sounds so interesting, but can I really read this? Yes, of course, I want you to read it. I'll keep writing it bit by bit and bring it to you. I hope it can be a source of motivation during your treatment, I suggested. My words brought tears to her eyes, and soon she was crying. I hastily offered Sarah a handkerchief as she cried. She accepted it but continued crying for a while. I'm sorry for suddenly crying. I was just so happy, and it felt like everything I've been holding in just released, she explained. It's okay to cry, Sarah. It's important to express all your emotions, whether it's sadness, anger, or pain. I want to be someone you can comfortably share those feelings with, I reassured her. Sarah's expression became a mix of tears and laughter as she nodded several times. Then, she tenderly caressed the manuscript of the novel. Can I start reading what you've written so far? Of course, go ahead. As I watched Sarah begin to read, I found myself deep in thought. I hoped, even against the odds, that she might realize it. I had modeled the protagonist of my novel after myself, and the heroine after her. It's a story about an unsuccessful writer who falls in love with a successful actress, a seemingly unattainable dream. I'm well aware that the likelihood of this romance becoming reality is slim. Nonetheless, I want the couple in my book to have a happy ending. Sarah once said she loved happy endings. Even if this love couldn't come true in reality, that's all right. My happy ending would be seeing Sarah overcome her illness and regain her health. For that, I'd spare no effort. Since then, I've been slowly completing the novel and delivering it to Sarah. When she was too ill to meet, I'd give the novel to the nurses, asking them to pass it to her when she felt better. And then, a year and a half passed. Thank you all for gathering here today. I was invited to the premiere screening of a movie that day. In front of me, under the spotlight, giving a speech, was the lead actress, Emily. Over the past year or so, Emily has transitioned from her idol activities to a career in acting. Despite challenges, her natural talent shone through. I'm truly happy to present this work to everyone today. This piece is very special to me, as it's a story about the lives of people dear to me. Emily said in her speech, radiating beauty that transcended any familial bias. Her presence there reminded me of someone I used to have feelings for. Although she no longer stands in the spotlight, she too was very beautiful. Emily's address was nearing its end. Reality can be harsh, and not everything ends happily ever after. Yet, we should continue to believe in hope. Remember and cherish your loved ones every day. Emily concluded, bowing her head. The audience erupted into a thunderous applause. I joined with all my might. Subsequently, the movie received high praise. The number of theaters showing it increased, and it was slated for a long run. Thus, my work, our story, became beloved by many. My life underwent some changes too. No longer needing to work as a traffic controller, I received non-stop requests for new novels. I moved to a more convenient apartment and now enjoy a more peaceful life. How are you feeling? Any nausea? I asked Sarah, who was lying down in the hospital, visibly tired. I'm okay, no nausea, just a bit worn out. I'll wake up after some rest, she replied. Take your time to rest. I'll take care of dinner and everything, I assured her. There it is, Michael's overprotectiveness. Sarah chuckled heartily. Seeing her laugh like that, I realized just how much happiness she brings to my life. I've told her many times, but I always wonder how much she truly understands my feelings. Being overprotective is okay, isn't it? Sarah means everything to me. I watched her as she sat up in bed, and I couldn't help but remember the tough times she went through during her illness. Sarah really fought hard. She overcame her illness, and I'm so proud of her. On the day of her discharge, I confessed my feelings to her, asking her to be with me, with the intention of marriage. I love you, Sarah. I want to support you during tough times and share joy in the happy moments. Would you consider being with me? With marriage in mind, I proposed, turning bright red. Sarah stared at me, her face a picture of disbelief. Seeing her tears, I honestly thought she was going to reject me. The thought of a lackluster writer like me proposing to a rising star actress seemed audacious. Are you sure about me? I love you too, Michael, and I'm so happy you asked, but I'm worried. There's always a chance that the cancer could come back. We don't know what the future holds. Her honesty was met with my own fervent expression of feelings. I want you, Sarah. Even if we don't know what the future holds for your health, I'll always be there to support you. I'll be by your side and keep writing stories for you, as many books as it takes. Before I knew it, tears were streaming down my face. I cried uncontrollably, unable to stop. I'll be your support, I confessed through my tears, and Sarah, crying too, nodded to my words. Even in her tearful laughter, she was as beautiful as ever, a sight I clearly remember being captivated by. Thank you, truly, thank you. I'm looking forward to our future together. I was in disbelief. Sarah accepting my proposal was nothing short of a miracle for me. We laughed together, embarking on a new chapter in our relationship. And then both Sarah and I made significant decisions. Sarah, though it was a tough choice, retired from the entertainment industry. Despite her hard work, I asked if she had any regrets. No, not anymore. Besides, I want to cherish the time I have with you now, she said with a clear, resolute expression. And my decision was to turn the story of Sarah and me into a book. Of course, since it was our story, I got Sarah's permission. The book was then adapted into a movie starring Emily. The unexpected blockbuster success took both of us by surprise, but we were happy and a little embarrassed. Hey, are you all right? What happened? It seems I was lost in thought, reminiscing about everything that has happened since I met Sarah. Snapped back to the present by her call, I apologized. Sorry. I was just thinking about everything since I met Sarah. It's been quite a journey. I still think it's a miracle that I got to marry Sarah. I love you so much. Did you hear that? Daddy loves mommy so much. Although Sarah's belly was not yet noticeably swollen, she placed her hand on it and chalked to it. I did the same. I haven't met you yet, but I already love you. Please come into this world healthy. I'll protect you and your mom, no matter what. It seemed miraculous enough just to be with Sarah, but life had granted me another wonder. Sarah was pregnant. Given her past illness, we had more concerns than a typical pregnancy. But I was determined to support and protect Sarah through it all, including our unborn child.